Yeah, so I mean, I've always loved boxing, been a fan. I started doing it myself at a late age, 33. But I always fancied it and thought I could, if I had the time to put into the training, that I could be good enough to do it professionally. And there's only one way to prove whether that's true or not, and that's to actually give it a go and do it. So, yeah, like I said, I've always loved it. I've always been a huge fan. And then I was just very fortunate to be able to have such a good training team.
Yeah. Boxing seems to have kind of been rejuvenated with the Middle East and with people like Turkey coming into the game. Obviously, we've had a lot of bouts over there now. How do you see the boxing progressing in the Middle East with these, EDF boxing with the obviously Riyadh season as well? How do you see it progressing over the next few years?
Yeah, I think it's going to get bigger and bigger. It's already huge over here. The agenda where my next fight is like the home of boxing in Dubai. And then obviously you've got Riyadh season as well, which is like becoming kind of like the home of boxing for the world, really. And so yeah, Turkey himself's made a big difference. And I can't see that changing anytime soon.
Yeah. Everyone, as I'm sure you're aware, everyone in the UK right now is kind of talking about Conor Benn, Eubank Jr. That's the fight that got everyone gripped. I myself, I mean, when he threw that egg, I was hooked. I was hooked. Who do you think? What do you think is going to be the outcome of that fight? What do you think is going to happen?
I know like all the experts are saying that Eubank wins easy, but I think I don't think it's quite that cut and dry. I've actually had a bet on Conor Benn, not because I necessarily think he's definitely going to win, but I just think the odds aren't right as they should be. I understand Eubank's more experienced and he's heavier, but Conor Benn's got that youth, and he's got that ferociousness on his side. I think the only thing that would actually tip tip it into Eubank's favor is if Conor Benn keeps up this same energy of like just he lets Eubank get under his skin so easy. And you can see he's like the angriest man on the planet. And obviously, when you're in a boxing ring, you don't want to be angry.
Yeah. You're a very busy man. Do not age. How do you
Yeah.
balance do not age or your other kind of businesses, entrepreneurial involvements? How do you balance that with the boxing and training full time for a fight?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. I'll be honest. This time has been a lot more difficult. My previous opponents have all been a sort of lower level, and you can kind of get away with a bit more of doing two things. This time it's extremely different kettle of fish, and I've had to delegate, and I'm very fortunate. I've got a good team at Do Not Age running things, and like now we're less than 2 weeks away from the fight, and so yeah, I'm pretty much just solely doing boxing and recovery at the moment. So I don't have any other meetings. They've taken everything off my plate, which is I'm very lucky, really.
Yeah. Well, that leads me on nicely, actually. So your fight coming up is against, I'm going to butcher his middle name, I know, Oscar Maximiliano James. That is correct, isn't it? I've got the pronunciation right.
That's
Um,
I think that's the full name. Yeah, just Maxi James is what he goes by. Yeah, Argentinian, 16 and 0,
yeah, yeah,
former WBC champion. So yeah, it's going to be tough, but that's what we're in the sport for. Everyone wants to see these kind of fights.
yeah. Can you give us any early prediction?
My prediction is entertainment. That's my prediction. So my style is come forward. My nickname is El Telelo, which is Mexican slang for the family man, and that's because of my Mexican style, which basically means I get hit a lot. Um, and so it's good for entertainment. And he's the same. He's South American. He's Argentinian, and so he's head down, comes forward, and yeah, so it's going to be a very entertaining fight. That's my prediction.
Yeah. I also saw your nickname. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Does it come from your niece and nephews, or something similar to do with their names? I read.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So it also doubles up as the first two letters of each of their names. So
Yeah. Um, I don't know if you saw. I'm assuming you will have done. Jake Paul called out AJ this weekend, which is, I mean, if that fight was to happen, it'd be massive. Do you think that it is a fight that is possible, and do you think it would be a Saudi clash?
no, I don't think that's going to happen. I still think AJ. is a serious boxer, and I still think that he has aspirations to win the heavyweight title once again. And so he's probably waiting until Usyk hangs up his gloves. Then those belts will get split down again, and then AJ is probably going to be able to win one of those again because I'd say he's definitely in the top five still in the world. If he fights Jake Paul, then it would just be like it'd be like the Jake Paul Tyson fight, but the other way around, where Jake Paul's just not throwing his punches because he's fighting a 60-year-old man, and AJ would just, I'm sure it would be in the contract that AJ wouldn't be allowed to throw punches. So maybe he'll do it in 5, 6 years' time for a load of money, but certainly not at the moment. I can't see it happening because he's still a serious boxer, and Jake Paul just likes people to talk about him, and here we are talking about him, so he's doing a good job.
He is. He is. That leads me on again quite nicely. The heavyweight titles changed quite a few times in the last few years. We've seen big heavyweights fall out the ring. How would you rank Usyk, Parker, Dubois, AJ? What would be kind of your thinking of that four? Who would you put as the top right now in the game? And
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't look further than Usyk. I'm a big Fury fan. I like the way he fights. I did think the first one was close, and I thought Usyk probably did win the second one. Uh, but still, I would probably put Fury at number two at the moment, even though he says he's retired. But he said that 15 times, hasn't he? So, um, and then Parker, I think always liked his style, but he's just improved so much since he's been under the tutelage of Andy Lee, which just goes to show you what a good trainer can do. And so, yeah, I would definitely put Parker up there. And of course, you'd probably have to put Dubois at number three at the moment. He's just knocked out AJ, and he's won some really hard fights. I think he had Big Baby Miller and Hrgovic as well before that. So, yeah, and Parker again, I would say would probably then be number four because no one wanted to fight Bacoli, and although Bacoli wasn't in the best shape we've ever seen him, he still did a job on him. So, yeah, that would be my rankings for the heavyweights.
what did you make of the Riyadh season, most recent one with Dubois, Parker, and Bertobia Bivol? What did you make of that card?
Yeah, just unbelievable. I think I'm a big Paterbia fan. Again, I love watching him fight. And so I was glad when he won the first one, and then also I was just glad to be able to watch the second one. They're both great spectacles. I think the Paterbia Bivol number two was probably the best card we've ever seen. Definitely since I've been alive anyway. So yeah, unbelievable to watch that as a fan. There was like three world title fights, I think, and then just all of the heavy. I mean, I think it was Callum Smith versus Josh Buatsi was like getting the card started. So, I mean, ridiculous when you think about it.
Yeah. Just kind of taking a step away from kind of traditional boxing. KSI, Misfits, influencer boxing. There's been a lot of talk recently with Turkey getting involved. I spoke to Anthony Taylor, Anthony Pretty Boy Taylor, who's the champion right now for Misfits. I spoke to him the other day, and he seemed quite excited for this potential interest from the Middle East. How do you think that's going to go? Do
Yeah.
you think influencer boxing will make that move over, or do you think it'll kind of stay more localized to the US and to the UK?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if there's a lot of attention on it and a lot of people are talking about it, then Turkey will just come and swoop it up because he's got bigger pockets than everybody else. So yeah, I think it probably will end up there. They'll definitely at least do some shows. Um, and from my perspective, I've got no issue with the influencer boxing scene. It's as long as it is what it is. You know what it is. We know what it is, and I think as long as people are enjoying it, then more power to them.
Yeah, that's the thing. It gets the views, doesn't it? Even if the quality might not
Yeah.
be there yet. Actually, do you think that the influencer boxing will ever get to that level of where the quality is not miles apart or not?
No, I think for most of them, no. People like Jake Paul, he is probably the best of the bunch. But again, when you look at his level in terms of what we would consider proper boxers, he's still way off the pace and nowhere near. And he's dedicated the last 5 years of his life or whatever to it. So I think it just goes to show there's a big golfing class. And when you're an influencer, I mean, I would hate I would hate that life. They have to think about so many things and posting and doing stuff for X, Y, Z different reason. Whereas when you're a boxer, you only need to think about one thing.
Yeah. We've well, kind of touched on it already. Fight's weeks away. Training's going well, I hope. How ready do you feel? How's the camp?
Yeah, I feel good. I think that probably in the last few days just is where I'm like, right, I'm ready now. I'm ready to hop in there and do it. Um, this final week of training is the sort of hardest sparring and the hardest schedule, and then fight week itself is quite frustrating, and because you have to slow down and you just want to get in there and fight, and then obviously have to cut weight. But yeah, so I feel good though. I've never felt this good before. It's the first time doing 8 rounds. Yeah, I'm feeling good, and it's a good job as well because obviously I've got a mammoth task in front of me.